Got him.
That was dumb. There's a really good chance you've heard of the Oddworld series. You may not have played a game, but you've probably seen it played or at least heard of it. They're old, they go all the way back to '94, I believe, and they're typically known for being puzzle platformers that are really, really hard, really morbid, and really weird, set in a world that confuses just as much as it delights and intrigues. But in 2005, the company decided to try something a little different. They wanted to mash up third-person action-adventure and first-person shooter, set it in the Spaghetti West with the main character being a mysterious bounty hunter. But it still had the Oddworld twist with its bizarre creatures and characters and interesting story that you really didn't see coming. And in 2005, I wanted to check it out, if anything, because its art was fucking badass. The cover of this game is awesome, but I never got to check it out. Luckily, in 2011, they did an HD remaster, and I figured now was a better time than any to check out Oddworld: Stranger's Wrath. Alright, I've played a bunch of strange games recently, with Deadly Premonition being the weirdest one yet. I think it's time I treat myself to something good and less odd. Please, no. Thank you. Oh, sit down. You're too kind. You're too kind. I'll be here all week. I'll be here all week. But seriously, Deadly Premonition did things to me. Horrible, unspeakable, terrible things. So I figured it was time to play something that people had regarded as good in a franchise I'd never really paid much attention to. If you've never played an Oddworld game, there's a good chance you've at least heard of them. Probably the ones that revolved around the Mudokan, Abe, and his hellish mission to free other members of his race that are being turned into food by a terrible corporation with the use of his psychic powers. And depending on how skilled you are at these ultra hard platformers, you might end up doing the job for the corporation yourself. But no, I'm not here to talk about those. I'm here to talk about one that seemed relatively overlooked when it was released. Oddworld: Stranger's Wrath. Oddworld's take on the Old West, filled with its bizarre creatures, memorable characters, interesting story, and real good voice acting.
Yeah, might want to look for the big sign that says Bounty Store.
Well, mostly good voice acting. You get to take on the role of Stranger, a mysterious bounty hunter with a slow drawl, bagging baddies for cash in an attempt to raise enough money for an unknown and mysterious medical procedure that is a matter of life and death. You'll be hopping from town to town, nabbing contracts and returning each criminal, dead or alive, to the bounty store to save up the moolah, which is the actual name of money in this world. I've always had a huge soft spot for bounty hunter roles in games, and I don't get it enough. I remember playing the Star Wars Bounty Hunter game, and though it was relatively mediocre, I loved it because, hell, I get to be a bounty hunter! Someone who works just outside the law, can use any force necessary, and gets paid to be a professional badass! Very few games have attempted it, and those that have are a mixed bag. So I was ready to dive into Stranger's Wrath for that reason alone. So let's hunt some bounties! I did it. Starting out in the small town of Buzzerton, you're off grabbing some small-time crooks for being an otherwise nuisance to the townsfolk. You'll grab the bounty contract at the bounty store, head off to where the crook was last known to be, wipe out his minions, and then nab him, dead or alive. If it sounds like a simple premise, well, it is simple. Very simple. But what's not so simple is how the game actually plays. Stranger's Wrath toys with the idea of being both a third-person action game and a first-person shooter. For the most part, when moving around the world and platforming, you'll be doing it in third person. You'll move faster by galloping when in third person and have a degree of camera control that'll allow you to peer around corners and scout enemy positions beforehand. But when the action gets hot, that's when you go into first person and dole out justice with your crossbow and living ammo. Which, let's be honest, is the real draw here. As Stranger states in the opening cutscene, he ain't one for guns. So instead, he uses creatures found around the world as his ammo. You'll shoot those creatures with your lightning bug things to knock them out and then collect them to be used on the enemies later. Which, real talk, can we talk about that for just a second? Look, I get it, Stranger. You don't like guns, which is generally fine. Why you don't like guns? I don't know. I mean, initially I thought it was because you didn't like killing, but that clearly isn't the case, as you've really already killed a bunch of enemies at this point, so instead, you use living creatures, which I have to imagine just straight up kills the living creatures you use. Instead of using one inanimate bullet to kill one of your bounties, you use hundreds of bees who die on impact in hopes that the bounty has like a deathly allergy or something to the bees, or just dies from going into shock and excessive pain from the stingers. Look, I'm just saying you're being counterintuitive, and I think you should rethink your bounty hunting process. Seems like you'd be a bit more efficient if you decided to, I don't know, pick up a pistol and shoot a bullet. Regardless, the different living ammo types opens up a wide array of different ways you can take down your enemy, and they're all really well animated. Each type of ammo having its own distinct, hilarious personalities, from the ever giddy and friendly chipmunks to the eager to murder fuzzles. Some creatures only make noise, which will attract a nearby enemy. Once you pull him away from his patrol route and his friends, you can then use like a spider creature to tie him up in webbing and run up to him and collect him as a living bounty, removing him from the equation. Each time you head into a level, you're presented with a swath of options on how you want to tackle it. For a while, anyway. See, you quickly realize that while Stranger's Wrath poses the option of stealth, it very much isn't designed for it. Sure, you might be able to snag and bag a few enemies before the rest of them realize it, but the way the levels are typically laid out means you'll be alerting them all at some point eventually, and it'll turn into a huge firefight despite your best efforts. So, sooner or later, the whole area is gonna find you and they're gonna start coming down on your ass. Then, it's gonna be time to start kicking some ass.
Okay, I'm just gonna switch this ammo type with this ammo type. And, okay. Oh geez. Oh darn! I'm out of ammo. Time to swap this one with this one, and okay, I'm good to go.
All right, yeah, maybe the action bits aren't exactly the smoothest. Don't get me wrong, the shooting mechanics themselves are fine, but making me switch ammo manually like that? Holy shit, that's incredibly inconvenient. There were a million different ways they could have tackled this one small design choice, and this is what they went with. It's not a game breaker by any means, but it's a minor annoyance, which actually is an awesome way to describe the game. A really good game muddled by a million different small annoyances. For instance, the Dead or Alive system. As I said before, you can tackle each mission and take the enemy either dead or alive, with the alive option being more difficult but generally more profitable. But there was never an instance in the game where I was ever short on money. Even after buying all the upgrades, I still had plenty of money left over. And there's no alternate endings if you take each enemy alive, and by trying to take them alive, you limit the type of ammo you can use against the boss, removing the depth of the ammo system itself. So I found it easier and way more fun to just take down each boss in a lethal way. It allowed for more variety in the gameplay and a more fun time for me. Sure, I could self-impose a more difficult challenge, but fuck that shit, I'm lazy. Also, the boss battles. Easily the most bipolar aspect of this game, bar none. Listen, man, I get it. You want to challenge us, make things hard, tease our brains, keep things fresh, fam. Lit 100-100. But fuck some of these boss fights. Most of them are good, I'll give them that. They require some thought and some minor puzzle solving, like taking down a shield or dealing with a threat before you can actually get to the boss. But later in the game, this shit is straight up evil. Particularly the final boss. It borders on feeling cheap and difficult for difficulty's sake. And at times, I near wanted to call them impossible. But I got through because I am a champion. And yeah, look, I know it sounds like I'm shitting on the game, but in reality, I actually really enjoyed Stranger's Wrath. Oddworld games are always special, and Stranger's Wrath is no different. From what initially seemed like a very simple story and premise, turns very Oddworld later on, with twists that I didn't even see coming and engaging changes to your character in the world. They took the simple Western trope of bounty hunter and made it something decidedly their own. Due to smart artistic decisions, the game holds up actually really well graphically, which is amplified by the HD re-release in 2011, which is the version of the game I ended up playing. The writing is hilarious with jokes, one-liners, and interactions that brought smiles and laughter the whole way through. Just creates incredibly memorable moments. It's just a shame that it's a great game punctuated with small issues that detract massively from the gameplay itself. It's a testament to the game that over a decade after its initial release, that my complaints overall are minimal and more about the quality of life while playing than actual design of the game itself. And if that's the worst you can say about an 11-year-old game, then fuck me, man, it must be good. And there you go, Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, a game that even 11 years later, which makes me feel incredibly old, is still really good. And with the HD remaster a few years ago, the characters themselves and the animations are stellar. Well worth playing, and believe me when I say the story will catch you off guard. I didn't expect something that deep and that interesting to hold through what eventually I thought was just an action game with weird characters. Well worth the play. Which is why I, the Honorable Judge Mathas, judge this game as guilty. As good as it is, the minor annoyances really have no place in the game. Even in 2005, there were plenty of examples of games that did what Stranger's Wrath did as far as controls, but did it better. Weapon changing is kind of annoying, and the stealth aspects, though presented, are really ignored, and the game kind of forces you into these awkward fights even though you're trying to sneakily work around the enemies. Regardless, it's still really good, even after embracing all of its faults, and I recommend you guys go check it out. It's on Steam right now. You really have no excuse. So as I said in the video, one of my favorite roles to play in video games is Bounty Hunter. Something about operating outside of the law and the interesting stories that can come about, and being a bounty hunter with a heart of gold, or being a ruthless one who only cares about the cash. That stuff is really fun, and I want more of it. But my question to you is, what is your favorite role to play in a video game? Whether it be Bounty Hunter or Heroic Knight or even the villain, if you enjoy playing the villain. Playing the villain can really lead to some interesting things. So let me know in the comment section below. I'm eager to read what you guys enjoy playing. And as always, I'll see all of you guys next time. Bye-bye. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Judge Mathas. Dean and I have been working really hard at trying to get more regular episodes up on the channel, so hopefully you'll see a new episode relatively soon. If you enjoyed this and want to watch another Judge Mathas, I did a top 5 list before this one of my top 5 MMORPG expansion packs, or if you want to see me blab every single day, you can go to youtube.com/MathasGames for daily gaming videos. And don't forget to check me out on the Twitter at twitter.com/MathasGames, on the Facebook at facebook.com/MathasGames, and just to subscribe to all my normal stuff. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.